Okay guys, welcome back. So Ireland beat Argentina, and some of the reactions been a bit harsh on Ireland, by the hot Irish media as well. But really it's another win for Ireland against a high quality tier 1 opposition, whatever you want to call it. And in the past that was unheard of, getting these wins after wins after wins. Not the greatest performance, but another win. And I think it's just a good lesson really on where they need to sharpen up. So as a neutral, I would say, don't panic, not a problem, as long as they can kick on and get a bit better in this autumn series. But what's interesting watching them comparing to the England game, where England kicked so much. I know it was raining, but England do kick a lot. Ireland do play a lot of rugby. Yes, maybe a lot of it's not high risk rugby, but they play a lot of rugby and they play out of their own half. And when you play like that, you have to be spot on, you have to be almost perfect. If you're going to build pressure, build pressure, build pressure, and they normally do, they just weren't quite there in this game. So that's kind of really where I thought Ireland didn't quite hit the heights. But anyway, they beat a good side, like I said, and it would have been a great workout if it wasn't for Sean O'Brien breaking his arm. I mean, that's a big blow. Big blow, poor lad. It's a bit like Billy Vunipola. He comes back after injury again, looking sharp, looking strong, breaks his arm. Horrible. They've got loads of depth there, of course. They've got Leedy, Van der Flyer, Ruddock. They've got loads of players there. But they don't have a tank like O'Brien. Okay, and no one can really play like O'Brien. Now, I think Levy comes straight in for the New Zealand game. I think he's different, of course, but he's great over the ball and he's really good in out wide channels. So a bit more of a traditional 7, if you like. He's not the tank of O'Brien, but he's perfectly good enough and he's very good at what he does. So not a problem, but it just means you don't have the option of O'Brien. And he covers other positions as well. So I was gutted to see that because I'm a big O'Brien fan. But other positives, Aki I think still looks dangerous. He's been looking good for ages. Addison is a good link player. He's a good all-rounder. I would say that's what he is, an all-rounder. He doesn't have the cutting edge of some of the other players, so I think you need Ringrose or Henshaw available next week. Touchwood, hopefully they're both available. So maybe an Aki Ringrose midfield I'd go for. That would be pretty cool. Definitely give New Zealand some questions there. But I think an Aki Addison midfield just doesn't quite have the same edge, although he did fine. Other questions: Marmion or McGrath? Now post your comments below who you think should start, considering that Marmion I think should be okay, maybe not, but let's assume he is. In my selection before this game, I'd selected McGrath, and I will stick with McGrath. I still think he's just a better all-round player, really good try sniffer, as we see. So I'd go with that. Let's assume Rob Kearney's fit as well. Would you go Kearney and Lama? I'd still go Kearney against New Zealand for his experience, for his safety at the back. And I think you saw a little bit there with Lama. If his quick feet don't get away from players, he'll get caught, and Kearney runs through his lines a bit more. He's a bit stronger, more direct. He'll run through his lines, and if Ireland are wanting to get into their rhythm, someone who does that is a bit easier to follow and ruck and get going some phases. Lama's obviously a bit more mercurial. He'll cut in, he'll try and dodge. If it doesn't work, it's harder to get going into a phase rhythm. But anyway, I'll go Kearney probably. And the last question I had was second rows. Good question to have. Which two do you go for? Now, James Ryan he's the youngster, but actually he's the big workhorse, which is interesting. Often it's not that way around. So I still think you need that. He's got that energy, that power, that muscle. And then who'd you go for? Henderson? Is it I'd gone actually for Ty Byrne as my choice, but I don't think we've seen enough of him. And because the line-out was so-so, not as bad as England's line-out, to be fair. Yeah, England will be having nightmares of Retallick, waking up in a cold sweat, thinking he's jumping against them. But they need to watch out for New Zealand's line-out. When you've got Retallick, and when they brought on Scott Barrett against England as well, you then had Retallick, Scott Barrett. You had obviously Kieran Reid, who's a great jumper, and Whitelock. So he had 4 awesome jumpers, which is just a nightmare. And it was raining, so it was maybe a bit easier to mark the front possibly. But anyway, I think go Toner. He's been playing great. It shows they needed a bit more in the line-out. They'll need even more against New Zealand. So I actually think it's quite an easy selection in the end, Ryan and Toner. Let me know if you differ. But I'm excited. Can they raise their game against New Zealand? Well, yes, they can and they will. You saw England raise their game massively. Ireland, at number 2, they have a genuine shot at beating New Zealand. They've done it recently, which will help. They're pretty strong. Yes, they're missing a few. They're missing Conor Murray, of course, and might be missing Carney, etc. But they're pretty much fully stacked. They're pretty much there. And it's going to be absolutely epic. If it's a dry game as well, there's going to be so much ball in hand. Who can dominate possession? Both teams wanting to dominate possession. Ireland will not be kicking to a New Zealand as much, I would imagine, as England did, so they'll have less counter-attack. Who can actually win the turnovers? Can Ireland grind them down and get penalties out of New Zealand? I don't know. It's going to be awesome. So pop down your predictions there. Can't wait. And moving on to Wales, Australia. Okay, this is just all about the result. And Warren Gatland said as much. It's all about the result. And they got it, thank God. It looked like they were going to just throw it away again or not do enough because Australia weren't the best. But they defended well and they're good at getting turnovers. Old Pocock, etc., getting over the ball. So, you know, that panic was probably starting to well a little bit. But now they've got that win. That's so important. They'll play it down and say, oh, the World Cup's a long way off. But I think they've got Australia in their pool, right? And having beaten them now is just huge. They've done it. They can beat them. You know, psychologically, it does lift the weight off their shoulders. So, you know, no matter what anyone says, that was huge to get that win. So, yeah, the performance wasn't amazing. The phases weren't amazing. There were loads of turnovers. But forget it. It was just about that psychological win. So important. A couple of other things. Australia turned down shots at goal, which is interesting. Is the question, is it culture because they like to go for the corner, or is it a massive distrust in Foley's goal kicking? I'd suggest it's a little bit of both, but that was such an easy 3 points they turned down there. But anyway, like to know your thoughts on that. And Australia have just had a torrid season of results. They probably want to go home, but if they beat England, everyone wants to beat England, especially Australia. They'll class that as a big pick-up for the end of the season. So, you know, they're going to be well up for that game because they want something to go away with. Even though maybe they could do with going on break now, they will be up for that. Yeah, so I think for Wales against Tonga, it's going to be all change. We'll see a massive changing of the guard. Any other positives? Yeah, I think seeing Beard was a really good depth exercise for Wales. I thought second row's been an area where I haven't been sure they've had the depth, but now Corey Hill and Beard's coming through, and I'm happy that they're good enough and they're looking well stacked. So that's excellent there. Big game next week for Dan Biggar. He's going to come in and he was going to try and show that he should have the 10 shirt. So I'm looking forward to that. You know, a few other chances maybe. We'll see Ellis Jenkins hopefully. I'm being convinced by Lydia. He's been good, but I don't know if he'd be in their first choice back row. So there's definitely all to play for those players coming in. Even though they should get a straightforward win, the guys coming in will make it more exciting. Anyway, there's my thoughts on Ireland and Wales. Let me know your selections, what you thought of those two performances, and until next time, I will see you then.